Chapter 3. After they finished getting unpacked, they all decided to spread out and work out which facility was the best. Bess and Ryan went to the PlayStation to find the only games they had were Minecraft, Cuphead and Fortnite. They played Cuphead for a bit. Louis went to the hot tub outside, wasting no time to turn the jet onto full power and full heat. A problem with being tall is that your hands and feet often get cold from weird blood circulation. So when he stepped in, he almost yelped at the sudden change in temperature and came close to dropping his camera. Well, Henry simply tested out the Wi-Fi by calling home to explain how their day had gone so far. The line kept crackling and voices from the other side kept breaking up. Eventually, they ended the call and resorted to sending a text, which took a long time to send. Reese went to get another coffee and Will went outside, also curious about the hot tub. "What the blooming hell have you two been talking about?" the musician said in a posh voice as he saw Louis outside. He caught his friend off guard, but eventually the younger man laughed. "Hey Will! So, how's the hot tub?" "Ah mate, it's lovely." Louis leaned back against the hot tub's wall, as if that emphasized the point. Will rolled up one of his black sleeves and dunked his hand into the water, feeling the jets push through his fingers. "It's not bad, isn't it?" he replied cheerfully, drifting his hand through the water in small circles and watching the ripples move around. He lifted his arm back up and shook it around to get most of the water off before saying goodbye to head back inside. "Oh, wait!" Louis called. "What time are we leaving for the restaurant?" "Like an hour and a half?" Louis nodded and ended the recording. "Would you mind taking this inside for me?" he asked, holding out the little black camera. Will nodded with a smile and leaned it across the hot tub to grab it. Louis wasn't making this easier for the musician. "Can you pass it here then?" Will asked, the front of his body now leaning across the hot tub, his shirt dangerously close to becoming wet. The younger man inched the camera closer. The purple-haired man was sighed, taking it as a joke. Finally, he reached the camera and had a firm grip on it. He grinned cheekily as an idea came into his head. "Okay, I'll see you in a bit then." He began to straighten his back and suddenly pretended to lose his grip on the camera. "Will!" Louis shrieked. The musician burst out laughing, having to close his eyes as tears of laughter threatened to sting them. "You almost dropped it in the water!" The younger man continued in rage. "The look of sheer terror on your... Was that supposed to be funny?" Louis chilled. Will opened his eyes to see Louis directly in his face. He hadn't heard him get up from the water. The musician stopped laughing and took a step back, holding his free hand and the camera up as he was about to be arrested. "It was a joke, Lou," he said defensively. "I wouldn't have dropped it for real." Louis just stared at his older friend, his eyes flickering from Will's blue eyes to the camera in his hand. He blinked slowly. "Mate, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." And Louis smiled. Will realized that he had been caught hook-lined and sinkered in his friend's joke. "I thought I had actually upset you," he stammered. Louis smiled reassuringly. "You're a great singer, mate, but you need to work on your acting," he replied, given an imitation of Will supposedly dropping the camera, his movements forced and non-linear. Both men laughed. "See you in a bit, Will," Louis said as he sat back down in the water. The musician waved goodbye and went back inside, closing the balcony door. Louis watched and readjusted his sitting position, given a massive yawn. The water was so warm, and the day's excitement along with his earlier travel sickness had taken a lot out of him. "I still have an hour left," he thought. "It won't matter if I close my eyes for a while." As Will walked back in, the others gave him a curious look. "What was the yelling about?" Ryan asked with a hint of concern creeping into his voice. Will explained the prank Louis had pulled, and that seemed to end the conversation. He left to go to his room. Ryan wasn't pleased about that. He looked down at his wrist once again. The marks were pretty much gone, but they were still partly visible. There wasn't an incident? He thought nervously. Damn it! He was overthinking it again. It was an accident. It had to have been an accident. this was Louis they were talking about after all. It's a knockout! The game said as the level of Cuphead ended in victory. One more level? Bess asked Ryan, glancing towards his friend as he could already sense the reluctance. Nah, somebody else can play for a bit, mate. The younger man replied. Bess could tell something was on his mind, but he knew how unlikely it was to get a straight answer if he asked, so he didn't. Reese, who had been wanting to play Cuphead but had felt too awkward to ask, moved out of his chair, shuffling awkward. Do you mind if I take the wheel for a bit? He asked. Ryan nodded and handed him the controller, before following Will upstairs. As he came to the door to the musician's room, he knocked on it softly. You alright? A voice asked from behind. Can I come in a second? Ryan replied, already opening the door. Yeah, sure, come on in, Will said. What's up? Ryan stepped into the room, taking note of how messy it was. Clothes were thrown over the spare bed that Will wasn't using, and anything that should have really been on a shelf or in a cupboard was currently lying on the floor. Ryan pushed his compulsive and organized thoughts down, trying his best to ignore the mess. Have you noticed anything off about Louis today? Ryan asked slowly, as he kept his voice down, trying his best to form a sentence that wouldn't sound completely offensive. Phil looked a little confused. That wasn't what he was expecting to be asked. He was expecting Ryan to say, Mate, I forgot my deodorant, or something similar. Off? Like what? I don't know, I'm just worried about him. He hasn't seemed himself. He only really talks when he's vlogging. He keeps spacing out and... Ryan saw one of Will's eyebrow raise. He sighed. I'll forget it. Forget I said anything. He wanted to walk out of the room again. No, Will began, wanting to reassure his younger friend. I mean, he's probably still feeling a bit sick from this morning, right? You know, the whole car ride. He thought he was going to throw up. Then why would he go on the roller coasters? Phil's face screwed up in concentration. He probably just didn't want to feel left out. He eventually explained. Or didn't want to make us feel awkward, you know what he's like. Always thinking of others before himself. Ryan couldn't think of anything to say. Will was right, his points made perfect sense. Remind you of anyone? Will said with a small, yet infectious smile. Ryan shook his head and laughed a little. Don't worry about him, mate. I'm sure he'll be fine. Ryan nodded doubtfully and began to walk out of the room. He felt a little awkward for bringing this up. Is it okay if we... He began. I won't tell anyone. Don't worry. Ryan sighed in relief. Thanks, Will. He finally stepped out of the room. The purple-haired man watched him go, and when Ryan closed the door, he listened to his resounding footsteps. Ryan had good intention. He just wanted to make sure their younger friend was okay. But good intentions or not, he had put the musician a little on edge. He'll be fine, Will told himself. He will be fine.